Is everybody ready out there? Okay.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, okay. Everybody, not just you, Carol. Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go. Here's the start of the show.
All right.
Here we go. Guess that song. Now, good morning, everybody. I'm Ron Miscavige, and this is Life After Scientology. Now, I have a question. Where do you go on the internet or on TV, expect to see an interview, and a guy comes on who's the host, plays a beautiful horn, and plays a song, and asks you to guess the name of it? There's only one place that can happen, and that's right here on Life After Scientology. Now, so I can just remember last week, I played this. That bugle call, and I asked you to guess what the name of that was. We got no winner, but I'll tell you what it was. In the service, I was in the Marine Corps. In the service, they have bugle calls to announce various things like get up in the morning or taps at night. That one is called come and get your pay, boys, come and get your pay, come and get your... That means the paymaster is in your headquarters company, and you can go there and pick up your pay. So there you go. So that's $100 million that wasn't claimed. So this week, if you can guess the name of that tune that I just played, you will win $200 million. I don't have any special effects here, so I got to create them. So, and by the way, if anybody writes in for the $200 million, I'll tell you a good place you can go to learn how to tell a joke from reality. I'm joking, but what the hell? Let's have a little fun. So let me put my beautiful horn away. And let's get on with the show. And by the way, we're having super chat today, so if you want to call in and make a comment or whatever, that's available today. I'll save the business toward the end. Let me tell you, there are a lot of stories of people joining Scientology and escaping. And when I say sometimes, gee, wow, that surprises me, actually it really doesn't. The method that they use is common to all escapes. And you'll hear it in this morning's person who I'm interviewing. A long-term Scientologist. She was the commanding officer of the Flag Land Base Hotel. I think that's what the title was. And she was in for 26 years, or was it maybe 25 years, sorry. Has a great story to tell. When I say a great story, an enlightening story as what happens when you get involved with something like Scientology. So here's for today's enlightenment, I'd like to bring on Carol Nyberg. Good morning, Carol, and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Just to clear it up, I was in the Sea Org for 26 years, but I was in Scientology for 30 years.
Okay, there you go. So we got that cleared up, and we're starting off now. We have a little late start today. I'll tell you, the technology that we love so much that helps you, and there's other times when it can just stop you in your tracks. We had one of those today, and finally we got on the show. So here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. Now, basically what I like to do is start off with the person being interviewed, and it was in 1978 that you got in Scientology, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Why don't you just tell us how that came about? Because I think listeners like to hear this, and, I like to hear it too.
Good. Well, I was living in Chico, California, and I was selling Neolife vitamins. And Neolife was just getting started, and I really loved it. I was out there selling vitamins and all kinds of good stuff. It's pyramid, Mm-hmm. And this guy that got me into it, he said, "Oh, you've got to do a Dale Carnegie course, Dale Carnegie sales course." So I did it. "Oh, you got to do the Dale Carnegie, win friends and influence people." Okay, I did it. Then he comes and he goes, "Oh my gosh, I found the best course. It's a communication course at the Church of Scientology. And you got to do it." And I go, come on, I just did all these courses. It cost me a lot of money. I don't really want it. Oh, it's only $30. Well, that sounds good. But I said, Scientology, what is that? I don't want to do that. I went down to where they were and I said, I don't want to go in there. So for the next 2 weeks, he called me every day, maybe twice a day, you've got to do this course. You've got to do this course. You got to do this course. He just would not give up. So one day I said, okay, already, just leave me alone. I'm going to go do the course. Okay. Just don't call me anymore. So I walked into the mission. That's what they were called. And the guy comes all ready to sell me on what to do. And I said, listen, just sign me up. You don't have to talk to me. I don't want to know anything. Just sign me up. And, so I go, and then I go do this course. And I have to say, I had some interesting results. Anyway, once you're done with one course, they kind of just put you on a line and you just go to the next one and go to the next one. And that's when I met Richard, who is the mission holder. And jumping ahead, he ended up being the father of my daughter. So obviously I didn't leave after the first course. I was there and got started. And he wanted to, I was fascinated by him because he was OT3. And, and plus he was trained and he was an auditor. And I just thought, oh, he must be like a god. Yeah. I was in a small town, didn't know a lot about other areas of Scientology. There's no internet or anything. So I thought, oh my God, he's done all these things. He must be really special. Anyway, so he took me to an OT convention in Los Angeles so I could, meet other Scientologists. Ended up going to Flag. He went to get services, and I went, and I was all gaga about everything, and I'm just going to say one funny little thing, and this won't resonate with some people, but later on in my Scientology career, I became a accommodations registrar, and we always made sure that people stayed at the Flag hotels, not somewhere off base.
Right.
Well, when I was there with him, we stayed off base, which is like, oh my God, the mortal sin of a accommodations reg is that you live off base. So Anyway, I did that, just a little humor. And anyway, they tried to get me to join the Sea Org then. I said, no, I couldn't because I'm with Richard and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's kind of where that went to.
Yeah.
And then, when I finally did join the Sea Org was after we did have a child, Nancy, and that's when your life changes after you have a child. You want to do everything you can for that child.
Absolutely.
I wanted to start a school. I wanted to make everything perfect. Well, and then Richard he just became a different person. The whole thing just seemed kind of not workable. And I thought, what am I going to do? Well, so then while I'm in New York, I get recruited again for the Sea Org. And Richard and I went to New York with Nancy, our baby.
Wait a minute.
And,
wait, you
yes.
You joined the Sea Org. You must have left if you had to join it again.
We were in Flag. We came back to Chico. And then we went to New York.
I got it. Okay.
He had a business opportunity there.
I got it.
And so I had a girlfriend of mine who had been from Chico. She was there. And then a guy all dressed in complete fabulous uniform with all kinds of braids and bars. And he looked very, important. And he walks in, he goes, have you ever been to Flag? I go, yes, I have. He goes, well, you're going back. He just said, you're going to Flag. And he wanted me to go right then and there. So I did. I went back to California, packed all my things, took my daughter, did not take Richard because he wasn't actually qualified to join the Sea Org because of LSD. And I left. I went. I was called and I went. And that's how I ended up at the Sea Org. And I arrived on my daughter's first birthday. It was November 3rd, 1982. 8 o'clock in the morning, I drove up. The van drove me up to the front of the Fort Harrison, and off I went. And that's how I spent my daughter's first birthday.
Wow.
And, which was kind of crazy, which I never expected that to happen. But I just looked at her and said, we're going to have an adventure. And I went and bought her a little stuffed animal and just tried to make it somehow cheerful.
Yeah.
And interesting, you could have seen that day. There were so many recruits. It was like a high number of recruits in that day, that week and that day. And they were almost all women, and they were all with babies or pregnant. It was like,
Wow.
what's happening? It was really odd.
Oh, boy, that absolutely would not happen today.
No, it would not happen today. But they were taking everybody. And so after, well, let's see, when I fast forwarding, I was in the Sea Org, loving it. I became a nanny for a while, and then they put me in charge of recruitment. I was all of a sudden I was leading an international post, running all recruitment all over the whole planet. And I go, how did this happen? Anyway, but you just do it.
Yeah.
So I had people in New York, in the UK, in Australia, South Africa, everywhere, and I was getting them to send us people to man up flag.
Yeah.
So that was part of what I did, and then moving forward after that, then I became, after I got out of recruitment, I ended up in the hotel area, which I loved. I loved working in the hotel. It was always really easy for me and fun. But then I became the commanding officer of the Fort Harrison Hotel, and that was a big job and a lot of work. And at the same time, I was being run on creating uniforms for all the hotel people. So that I was pretty much working a 24-hour day, 22 to 23 hours a day consistently. Like all night I'd be working on the uniforms, and all day I'd be working on the hotel. And
wait. When you say you're working in a hotel, you're talking about getting people to pay for reservations, right?
Well, I was running the hotel, making sure the restaurants were full and making sure the rooms were full, and just running the hotel.
Now, what would be the penalty if it wasn't full? What would they do?
Well, okay. I mean, on a day-to-day basis, if you didn't fill suites or your stats were down, you go to it's called the bilges, which comes from a ship, right?
Yeah.
But on base, it would be doing pots any time of the day, or especially after the working day, go and do pots. Or clean out bathrooms, or do something that's unnice. It's not nice, and
right.
Have you go and do that kind of work. But so by 1989, New Year's, I was in lower condition, liability it's called, and I was working, and my the person that was running me, Jenny. Okay, should I say her name?
Jenny Linson, yeah, right.
Yeah, Jenny. Yeah. And she, that morning, she said to me, she goes, "You'll never get out of liability. You'll never get out of liability." I go, "Ugh." So I left. I took off with my kids. I left my husband, and I just said, I left him a note and said, "I can't take this anymore. I'm going."
Wow.
And of course, my idea was to go to my mother's in California, but I ended up going to a motel in Clearwater. And I just wanted to sleep, and had my kids with me. And I remember it was New Year's morning, and I went out. I was by the pool. It was beautiful weather. And I said, I'm just so happy. I was sitting there by the pool in a lounge chair, and I just was, and I wasn't even that far. But somehow they didn't find me. But they kept calling my mom. So I didn't want her to be the person getting the brunt of all that. So I eventually talked to somebody, and I went back. It was after 2 weeks, and
Well, wait a minute. Did somebody come out and try to rescue you or retrieve you?
Well, actually, believe it or not, my husband did. He came.
Wow.
And Well, that was, I mean, it's not like I didn't really want to be with him. I just didn't know how to manage that because I didn't want to take him out if he didn't want to go.
Yeah.
So that's why I left by myself. But he came to get me. So I kind of caved in on that and went back. And I wasn't, I kind of knew I would go back. I guess I wasn't really ready to totally cut the string. I mean, my kids were little, I had my husband, and,
Yeah.
so I went back and they put me on, on working in a restaurant while I got sorted out, and which was, of course, a demotion. And I did that and for a while. And then I went back to the front desk and did hotel duties until I ended up becoming a registrar. In 1996 is when they took me off the front desk and made me a registrar, which is when you make money for the church. And
Right.
I stayed doing that for 12 years, and I made a lot of money, millions of dollars for the church.
Well, when
So,
you say you work the front desk, that's like
yes,
a receptionist at a hotel, right?
yes. Front
Okay.
desk of the hotel was front desk manager, making sure that all the rooms stay filled. And again, I had to fill all the suites. The suites were always the thing that people came to me to do. They were always the most expensive rooms,
Yeah.
and they were supposed to stay full.
Yeah.
So I did it. I just got people to go up there and, you know,
Yeah. Well, listen. I used to see you at Flag, and
yeah,
you were kind of like a fixture. I mean, I expected to see you. Then, if I went into the Reg area, I expected to see David Foster and Paul Miller
that's right.
and Sonia
Yes.
Cacavelli or whatever her name is now.
Sonia. Yeah.
And so that was you were definitely a stable person.
Yes.
I think you held that post with a lot of
Front
power.
desk. I was on the hotel for about, in the hotel end of things for close to 10 years. But
Right.
yeah, people knew me well as being in the front desk. And while I was on the front desk, David Miscavige, your son,
Yeah.
and Mike Rinder came to the Fort Harrison, and they wanted to get a tour of this and that. We just had done some renovations. And so I guess I think it might have been David himself. He came to me and he said he wanted to tour the presidential suite. Well, at that time, presidential suite was filled like this person was living there. I mean, it wasn't just I'm going to stay for a couple weeks. This person was living there. She was also our most high. She was our biggest ticket. I mean, she paid us more money than anybody else because she didn't just have one suite. She had a suite for her son. She had a suite for her son's nanny, many other rooms, somebody for her personal trainer. She'd fly in her hairdresser. I mean, you're talking a big deal.
Well, okay. Now
So,
wait. Before you go any further, as an example, what would she pay for a week of that type of accommodation?
oh gosh, $5,000. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
No, just
at that
ballpark it.
time,
Just ballpark it.
yeah, it was about $750 a night, I think, at that time.
That was for the presidential suite, right?
Presidential suite. And then she had another suite, which is another $200 or $300, and then several rooms. So she was paying us a lot of money.
Yeah.
Anyway, the way she operated, she liked to sleep in. She was not a morning person. She'd sleep till noon.
Yeah.
And we had it worked out that when she woke up, she'd call down and say, okay, I'm ready. Somebody bring me coffee or whatever, breakfast.
Yeah.
So we always waited for that call we never went to her room.
Yeah, I can see
So
why
I
not.
was
Yeah.
asked by David Miscavige. I said, we want to go see the presidential suite now. And I said, oh, sir, we can't go to the presidential suite now because the guest is sleeping and she gets up at noon. Well, I just did this because that's what a good manager would do. You don't disturb the guest who's paying you. So that's that. I mean, I had no other kind of motive. I just said, that's, the guest is sleeping.
Yeah.
So Mike Rinder started running up the stairs to me and says to me, you just put CI, which is counterintention, on David Miscavige's lines. And that's unforgivable. You just can't do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And so anyway, I got removed from post right on the spot, removed to put in ethics. and told to write 20 pages of Overton withholds. And so I go, how do you write 20 pages? Whatever.
I'll tell you
So I
how. You
did,
got to make up some. That's what you do.
well, you make it up and you write big. You
Yeah.
know,
All right.
I just did it.
I, I,
And
I
they said,
listen.
if you,
I love it. This is punishment at its best.
yes,
Punishment
yes.
taken to new extremes. Yet there is a policy letter written by L. Ron Hubbard in the 50s, I think he wrote it, called An Essay on Management. And
Mm-hmm.
he says in that policy, punishment drive never has worked. It's the
Right.
willingness of the person you're punishing to do the job. And all you're doing is driving his willingness down. That's what punishment drive does. Yet it is the standard operating basis of handling people. Quote, quote, handling, unhandling, end quote,
Right.
handling people. Anyway, go on. You're just wonderful. Okay, so you made one mistake. That's it. You're off post. In other
Yep.
words,
Off
they
post.
took a sharp pair of scissors, cut off their own fucking noses to spite their face. All right. That's
Right.
wonderful.
Well, I finally, they let me put back on post, but it was quite an experience for me
Yeah.
to have that going on. And on my career, so then I became, like I said, a registrar. Well, once you're a registrar, you might as well have your feet nailed to the floor. You're
Yep.
not going anywhere. Trying to take a leave of absence to go visit your family. I mean, you have to get yourself replaced. See, that's a little thing they don't ever tell you. Is that when you join the Sea Org, they say, oh, you're going to get 3 weeks leave every year. And it sounds wonderful because, oh, I could do 3 weeks vacation. Great. I can go visit my family. Plus, I could maybe go somewhere. Well, you never do it
No.
because it's too hard to get yourself replaced, especially if you're a registrar and you're making good money. Who's going to replace you for that time
Yeah.
that's going to make as much money as you do? Well, it's not going to happen. So, but I eventually, I was at the Fort Harrison for a number of years, and then they renovated the Osceola Hotel, and I got moved to the Sandcastle. I said, oh, I would love to be at the Sandcastle, be the Sandcastle Registrar. So that's another hotel we have right on the water. It's beautiful. So I was there, and they even built me a new office. I mean, I was living, I had a good thing going for a little bit. They built me a new office, and I was making money. I was like the golden girl, and everything was wonderful.
Yeah.
La la la.
Yeah.
And then, but then my son, he was totally not happy. So I called up his dad, and I said, I'm going to send Jeff to you because he's not thriving down here. It's not, and I wasn't ready to leave. I was still in it.
Yeah.
I was still in that mindset. I got to be here.
Yeah.
So he goes to his father, which I think I thought that was a great solution. Turned out not to be such a great solution, but that's another story we're not going to get into right now.
Okay.
He didn't really have a wonderful family life because they were dedicated. His father and his wife were so on board with Scientology that Jeff was an afterthought.
Yeah.
So that wasn't so cool.
Yeah.
And, as a mother, there's many times that I didn't leave with my son. Why didn't I leave with my son? Well, those are things you beat yourself up on later. And
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Huh?
You're getting indoctrinated every day, and you build this mental prison. It's your own mind's mental prison that you've built that keeps you there. I mean, I can understand that. Listen, I was in the Sea Org for 26 and a half years.
Yes.
In Scientology for 42.
Well, I totally later saw how the mind control works. But so then in 2004, my daughter, she had been, in CMO and higher up and doing all these things. And then she got into a, regular post, she came down from that high level.
Yeah.
And then she gets assigned to the RPF, the Rehabilitation Project Force, which nobody really wants to do that. I'm
No.
sorry. Nobody wants to do that. Well, so then she doesn't want to go. So they come and get me and say, go talk to your daughter, convince her to do the RPF. They put Nancy and I into a room all by ourselves, a little office with no cameras, no microphones, which is, you know,
I know. That's
on those.
unusual.
It's kind of, that was like, we're in here by ourselves and nobody's watching us. So anyway, she's crying. I'm crying. And I said, Nancy, I don't want you to do the RPF. They wanted me to handle her to do it. There's no way I wanted her to do it. She's like 19 or 20 years old. And, you know, sending her to the RPF would just ruin her life.
Yeah.
She'd be in there for at least 5 years probably, which is like ridiculous, you know, no sleep, working hard hours. I mean, it's just crazy, crazy stuff. So I just said, no, I don't want you to do it. So she ends up routing out of the Sea Org and leaving. Well, we'd been together. So I brought her to the Sea Org in 1982, and this was 2004. We saw each other every day. We were really close, and I was devastated. I mean, I was just devastated. Well, my stats started going down, and here they built me this new office. I'm the star reg, la, la, la. And then my stats are going down because I just can't handle the fact that she's gone. And anyway, Debbie Cook, by the way, she helped me. She was wonderful. And that's, you know, a time for another story. But I always loved Debbie. She was sane.
Yeah.
And she helped me. But anyway, so I got through that part and, you know, got back on track. And then my husband gets sent to the RPF about a year later. And I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like alone. I have no kids, no husband. My husband, by the way, this is a story. You know, he's on the RPF, right? Well, I get pulled into my senior pulls me in and closed door. I go, what's going on? She goes, your husband's routing out of the Sea Org, and he's signed the divorce documents, and here they are. I'm here. I'm here to tell you that he's leaving.
Wow.
And I'm. This is like some afternoon, and I go, what? And because I knew him well enough to know his family means everything to him. He has 2 kids in the Sea Org. He's not just going to walk away for no reason.
Yeah.
Or divorce. So, but because he's in the RPF, we can't talk. We never talked about what was really happening, and I never got to see him. He wrote up a list of some things, and I answered. I got the chaplain took me out to see him to the RPF area. That's the only time I saw him before he left, with the chaplain present. I never got to be alone with him.
Jesus Christ.
And so I never really knew what the story was, but he did leave. And they made us get divorced. He told me later that he had never signed any divorce papers. That was a lie. He didn't want to get divorced, but we had to, because once somebody's out and you're in, you can't stay married to somebody that's not in the Sea Org.
Right.
So they made us get divorced, and then I wasn't allowed to speak to him again because of his status and my status. We weren't allowed to even talk on the phone, nothing. And so it was like he died because there was no communication, but yet you couldn't mourn, you know, it was because he's still alive somewhere. People would come and ask me or say something about it public, and I'd almost lose it, which, you know, you're not allowed to show any emotions on post. You are on post. You're not going to cry or get upset, you know?
Yeah.
And, but I did.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm human, and, you know, anyway, it was a very, very, again, Debbie Cook came to my rescue and got me in session and helped me get through it. I was really traumatized by the whole thing, but basically, it really led me into a place where I was so alone, even though there was tons of people around, I was so alone, and I said, I don't have anything here. Yeah. I would like to go back for a second. Do you mind?
Not at all. Go ahead.
When I was just thinking about, because I'm thinking about my kids, I wanted to tell you, in the early days, in the 80s, it was a lot looser of a time, and sometimes it was kind of fun. We had family time. Everybody would go home at 5:30. We'd jump in the pool or go out to eat, or, you know, have dinner and take a rest, and then you go back to work until midnight. So it was kind of crazy, but that break in the day, and you got to see your kids. but that was the only time you got to see your kids, because then you go back to post. When you came home, you had to go to the nursery and pick up your kids and carry them to your room. So it was pretty strange. I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
In those days, all your kids were in the nursery. That's why they ended up, like in 1989, they didn't want have any more kids.
Yeah.
Because it was all this manpower being used to take care of babies. So, but on Saturday morning was our time for cleaning our rooms and doing personal things.
Wait, hang on a second.
Sure.
I need you here. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Okay. So on Saturday mornings, I tried to maximize my time with my kids as much as I could. And I would make them breakfast. I had renovated my room. I had just a little bit of, I got a little bit of money, and I just turned my room into a cute little place. So I had a loft beds where we slept. The kids were underneath. I had like a futon pull out. And then I had a little living room, and with a TV, but when you could still have a TV and VCR, because those were taken away.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden, no TVs. Everything was gone. And, but I made myself a little kitchen. I had, I didn't have a stove, but I had a microwave, and I had a toaster oven.
Yep.
And
those toaster ovens were great, weren't they?
Toaster ovens, an electric skillet, and a coffee. But you could do anything.
Yeah.
I could even make that a double boiler if I wanted to. So I cooked.
Yeah.
I even learned how to do stuff on the microwave that I never thought I would do. And anyway, every Saturday morning, I put a little table out inside of our room. We were on the second level overlooking the pools. I said, oh, we have a poolside room, la, la, la. I was like really, jazzing it up. I put them outside, and I give them food, their breakfast out there, and I just try to play as much as possible. And even sometimes early in the morning on a work day,
yeah,
we'd get up really early, and we'd go to a breakfast buffet place. I think, anyway, I don't remember the name of it, but we'd go there, and there was this big pond out back. My son loved snakes and lizards, and so he was out there looking at everything. And we would have as much food as we wanted on this buffet, and then we go back, and I go to work. So I tried to.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Carol, you were enjoying yourself too much. It has to end.
Yeah, of course it has to end. But I mean, the point I'm trying to make, I was eking out any minutes that I could.
I know.
To spend with them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It was just like, I tried to make it, because I had always had this idea of if I had kids, what I'd be doing. And it certainly wasn't that, but I tried to make it an adventure. But going back up to after my husband left, left the Sea Org, then it was pretty dismal for me. And I would just, I didn't have anything. I was always alone. But then my daughter moves back to Clearwater. She had a baby in 2006. She had a baby. So I said, okay. She goes, when of course I wanted to go there and be there for the birth, but there was no way.
Yeah.
There was no way anybody was going to let me go. Fly to California for the birth. For one thing, they would think, well, why do you want to do that? I mean, they don't consider that important.
No.
Families are not important. Going to see the birth of your grandson, that's, forget about it. Plus, I would have had to do hours and hours of a sec check.
Yeah.
And then hours and hours of a sec check on the end. So it's no chance, no telling when I would have gotten there.
Yeah. So
I went into apathy. I just couldn't, I just even bother pushing it, Yeah. So again, because I'm a reg, they don't want you to go.
Just let me tell you this.
Yes.
That you wanting to see your little grandson or your granddaughter being born would be considered by them as other fish to fry.
Exactly. Yes, you're so right about that.
In other words, it's a zero in the minds of those people on staff. There is no compassion and no love. It's, keep your nose to the grindstone. What you do right here now with and in Scientology determines the fate of every man, woman, and child on this planet. In other words, bullshit.
Right. Well, that reminds me when Nancy left and I was so devastated,
Yeah.
And I went to the chaplain trying to get some help. And he he basically told me, well, even though you gave birth to her, you're not really her mother.
Yeah.
You're just a Phaeton, and she's a Phaeton, and you just happen to be in the same place at the same time, and there's really no connection. Even though I kind of knew that was the philosophy, I never really bought it, never really believed it,
Yeah.
I just thought, okay, that's somewhere over there. And then he dumped that on me. I was so emotionally spent by that time. I said, okay,
By the way,
see ya.
who was the chaplain then?
Oh, the tall guy with the white hair, and I can't remember his name now. Very tall. What was it? I haven't thought about him for a long time. He was chaplain for quite a while. Really white hair.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay,
well,
it doesn't
we'll
matter.
think
I was
about
just
it.
curious.
Yeah. Anyway, did not make me feel very good.
Yeah.
So anyway, Nancy moves back to Clearwater, and I get a Liberty a day off, 24 hours off with her. I got to spend with her, got to meet my grandson. He was a year old by that time. And, we had a beautiful, beautiful day, and she gets all settled, and I, go back to work. Well, right after that, the basics get released. And for anybody that doesn't know what the basics are, well, they're all the basic books of L. Ron Hubbard, all redone by David Miscavige, or upgraded, or whatever you want to do. However he spun it, he was making them more perfect now. And he wanted everybody on the planet basically to have a set of these books.
Right.
So everybody at the Flag Land Base got a quota for selling books in addition to their own job. Well, so on the long and short of that means I did not have another Liberty for the whole year, of, pretty much, I guess. Well, after that first Liberty with her, which was somewhere in 2007, I left at the end of 2008. I didn't have a Liberty, no day off from all that time. That was the only time I had that time with her. So they came to be with me, but I could never see them.
Right.
Plus, every time she would drive into the base, because she wasn't done with all of her lower conditions. Well, actually, she was done with her lower conditions, and she still had stuff to do. She wasn't okay to be on the base, so she'd come to visit me, and security would make her leave.
Wow.
And then you're supposed to, if you want to go see her on your own Liberty or on your own time, you have to get ethics okay to go see her, because she was ex-Sea Org.
Yeah.
So it was just a mess, and a constant struggle. So what we did to, with the basics out, I was staying up. I do my own job, and then you have to stay and sell books, after that. So it was like a lot of late hours. But which reminds me, I didn't tell you about the boot camp. I got to tell you about this.
You
boot
should
camp.
tell me about the boot camp, because that boot camp was not like the Marine Corps boot camp.
It was horrible, but it was somewhere 2006, 2007. Anyway, what happened, my first experience with the boot camp, I worked at the Sandcastle. I was usually there leaving the building late at night. So I walked out, and all these people were coming down the hill, and they had black T-shirts on. And I thought, what's happening? It looked like a scene from a bad movie.
Yeah.
It looked like an invasion. It was all these people. And I found out that it was the qualifications division. There's different divisions in Scientology of people that work there. So the qualifications division had all been put on boot camp. And they were all in their black T-shirts, I guess, and black shorts or whatever, running down the hill, coming to the Sandcastle to do some sort of work. I have no idea what they were going to do, but it looked very scary. And I said, I don't know what that is, but I don't want to have any part of it. I don't want ever to have that happen to me. So, and we go along, and it was a long time later. All the registrars, when I was a registrar, which people that make money for the church, all the registrars were called to the building. Debbie Cook was running the Flag Land Base at the time, and she announced to us that we were all going to be on boot camp, go to boot camp. Oh no. And we're talking the registrars that seem to never get in trouble. The people that register for the ship, people that register for planetary dissemination, the International Association of Scientologists. These are all star regs, and then accommodations and even letter regs. Letter regs are people that send letters out to people and getting them to send money in. Anyway, well, this was a shocker. And I'm thinking, oh, well, okay, let's do this and get it over with. And then I come to find out that we had to work all day. So we'd work till 11. And then we go report and have to do calisthenics. And if you had a knowledge report written on you that day, it was read to the whole group. And then you just had to come up in front of the group and do, drop and do. I don't even know what the name of the exercise was. There was no way I could do it. It was a really crazy one. And of course, I was 58 years old. So it was like, and I was not in any good shape.
Yeah.
So, I had my job, I was always sitting, I hardly ever walked around. So I didn't get, I wasn't mobile.
You had no exercise. Yeah, I got that.
Huh?
You had no exercise.
Yeah, it was crazy. No exercise. Well, you had exercise time in the morning, but, it's not like you really were doing it a program. Anyway, that's supposed to be in the schedule. But, when you don't sleep, you want to, you just sleep through that. You don't do it.
Exactly.
Anyway, so okay. So then we're going and after we do these exercises and do this whole, we do marching. You have to march and do, what's it called? Close order drilling, where they go left, right, look, boop, boop, boop. And if you went left or you're supposed to go right, you have to drop and do 20 push-ups on the spot. So you want to make sure you don't, and you're already tired. Yeah. So it's like you have to, am I going the right way? You're doing all this close order drilling. Then they take you to to do hard labor until 3 a.m, doing, I don't know, pulling things out of the ground, chopping things down, doing crazy stuff. We're just, and then they stop us, and then they drive us back to where our berthing is, and say, you got to report by 8:30 the next morning to a classroom together with just us, where we're all supposed to do an ethics reading of ethics policies and do some ethics work. So I'm thinking to myself, what is this? I've never, ever, ever seen anything by LRH, by Ron, about this kind of a program. So I had no idea what's supposed to be the end. How long are you going to be on this? And I got scared. It was the first time I was always kind of operating in fear from, that's how they run you, is being in fear. But this was a fear beyond. I was really frightened. Like, I didn't know. It was a no man's land. I didn't know how it was supposed to end. What are we supposed to do here? If you kind of know what's expected, you can kind of work towards that. But I had no idea. So finally it ended, and they had us attest to something that they wrote up about how great we're doing now, how wonderful the program was. I said, sure, whatever, I'll sign it, And then you have to get on your hands on the meter, which is, to attest that you had all these wonderful. So somehow I believed it, and I did. Yeah, I'm great. Let me out of here. So I finally ended it. And a couple months later, when my stats were down, I got pulled in just before dinner time and threatened, if I didn't get my stats up, I'm going to go back on boot camp. And I'm like, oh my God, I saw the future. This is how they're going to do it all the time. That's what they're going to hang over your head. And I'm sorry, life is life. You don't always have your stats up every week, it's just not happening. So, but I have to tell you a funny story. May I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. When I started, at the time when I was on boot camp, I lived in downtown. I had been moved out of the QI berthing. I was living in a motel, had been the Travel Lodge. I forget the name of it now, what it was called now, but it was berthing, our berthing for staff. And it was one of the few places that didn't have a gate. Okay.
Yeah, because I know the hacienda has a gate, right?
Huh?
the hacienda has a gate.
Yes, and the QI had a gate, you know,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
everybody had a security guard at the gate. You
Yeah.
couldn't go in and out. Well, I had a car parked there, and it was late at night because I think it was like the first night getting introduced to the boot camp. I go home, I jump in my car. I don't even think I owned a pair of tennis shoes. I didn't have anything to, you know, you're supposed to wear clothes for working, like t-shirts and shorts or something. I had nothing. I mean, I had my uniform. I basically never went anywhere. I didn't have any clothes
Yeah.
or any shoes. So I jump in my car and I drive to Walmart in the middle of the night and I go shopping. But it was liberating. I said, well, I'm going to be comfortable. I got to have something to wear. So I could buy this stuff anyway. And then to top it off, just because I didn't want them to own me, I went to the next morning. Again, I slipped out, got in my car, and I drove up to McDonald's. And I'm eating my breakfast with coffee. And all of a sudden, this public that I reg walks into McDonald's and sees me. Well, I'm going, but then again, I know he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know that I shouldn't be there.
Yeah, of
I
course.
mean, he's the public. He didn't know.
Yeah.
But so he sits down, hi, la, he's all ready to chat. And I'm going, please, I can't do this. Anyway, so I finished my breakfast and I got out of there. But it was just I was just trying to be a rebel because I was being a rebel because I just said, I have to have this little bit. The fact that I could get in my car and go. I mean, we had a security guard there too, but he would go back and forth between the Yachtsman and our place. So he was sometimes not there. So
Yeah.
I took off anytime I could. Oh my gosh. Anyway, that boot camp is when I really realized that I had to go. I mean, it was the worst experience that I'd ever had in the Sea Org and the most terrifying.
And I'll tell you, I don't blame you because that's a terrifying experience. We had it at Gold, and
Yes.
like you don't know when it's going to end, and then you have to attest to some wonderful wind that had nothing to do with reality.
Yeah.
I do remember
Well,
that.
I have to say, all the years I've been out and all the things I've thought about, I am so grateful that I was never sent to INT. You know, I mean, there was a time I was offered a job way in the back when I was running the recruitment. They said they wanted me to run the celebrity centers. I mean, they wanted me to take that job, and I would have to probably go to LA. And somehow I didn't want to do it, and I didn't do it. And thank God I didn't do that. Can you believe?
I know that.
Oh my-
Now, listen, Carol, we're coming to the kind of bewitching hour here in the studio, and do you have time to wrap this in the next maybe 10 minutes? Otherwise, I'd love to have you back. It's your call.
Well, you know what? I have a lot more to say. Things I kind of wanted to tell you. So,
yeah, let's take the time so you can get your whole story in. I don't want to shortcut this because, look, the reason I do this program, and I told you this priorly when we spoke on the phone before you were on today, is that when my book came out in 2016, prior to the book coming out, I did 2020. I did Late Night with Seth Meyers, all the talk shows, the major talk shows.
right.
2020 interviewed me in Philadelphia for over 6 hours and over 2 hours in Milwaukee. That's over 8 hours. If I were on the screen 20 minutes, that was about it. And of course, the reason I do this is to give you and everybody like you who have been abused by the church the complete time to tell your whole story. So I don't want to shortcut it. So why
I
don't
do
we,
have a lot more to say.
Yeah,
So a lot happened afterwards too.
and I'd love to hear it, and I'm sure our listeners would like to hear it too, because that's the whole purpose of this program. And I think my producer wanted to get my attention here. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have a super chat from Moab Jam Audio. Got your book yesterday. I'm currently on page 56. It's a very good read. I usually struggle to keep reading books, not with this. I like how it's written. All the best, and greetings from Switzerland.
Wow, from Switzerland.
Wow, nice.
That's wonderful. Hey,
I ask you a question about your book.
yes, go ahead.
I bought the audio because I love to listen to books, but I want to get a hardbound. So should I go to Amazon or go directly to you or
No,
what?
here's what you should do. Go on to my website,
Okay.
therealronmiscavige.com,
Okay.
and make sure you got the right website. Because not necessarily for you, but I'm sure you know where it is. There's a guy sitting on a bench in front of a body of water. That's
Okay.
my site. The church, in their most gracious and kind heart, bought 500 variations of my name. So if you put in anything different, it'll take you to a hate site. But
Okay.
if you go to my website, therealronmiscavige.com, you'll see that there's a part there where you can go to the books. And
Oh, good.
it's Ruthless and my two humorous books. But if you go there, it'll direct you right to Amazon, and you can get the best price too.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. I want to do that. Yeah.
Well, that's great, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. What's the guy's name again? Moab.
Moab, yes.
Moab. Say hello to everybody in Switzerland for me. I'm joking. Hey, thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate that. Okay, so let me just do a little business here. If you like what we do and you like this program, please share it with as many people as you can. If you're not a subscriber, if you'd please subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And also, I would appreciate any help of those of you out there who want to contribute a little bit of money each month to, help the ongoingness of this show and the other shows that I do. I do this show. I do a thing called Story Time. I do another one called Life Lessons. And shortly, I'm going to do another one on apparatus I found almost by accident about, a short time ago, a couple weeks ago, which is the best workout apparatus for the money, well, actually for any price, that I've ever used, and I've worked out for many years. I'm going to do a little video to tell people about it because I'm a firm believer that that's the thing. If you do, you're going to feel better. Even if you just walk a little bit each day, and just for your health in general. But anyway, just not to keep going on and on here. If you want to become a patron, go to that site and you can do so. So anyway, from me and Carol and my producer, I'd like to say, I hope you have a wonderful day, wonderful life, successful, happy, healthy. And Carol, we'll get you back, and I'll make an
Okay.
announcement. So, let's get into it and tell these stories. I want to hear them. I'm sure our listeners do, too.
Okay.
So, from Carol and myself, all of you out there, see you on the next episode.